As everyone said, I'm Gigi Wang. And is Edgar here? Yeah. So Edgar picked me up from the train station yesterday. And when he saw me walking towards him, he said, "We're going to have to build a stage for her." So I've been coming to to the Netherlands about 3 times a year. So I've been working a lot with the Dutch and on entrepreneurship, mainly in Amsterdam. But a very strange coincidence is for Leonard, one of his staff is a guy named Jean-Jacob Hildebrand. And Jean-Jacob and I were at an entrepreneur conference in Morocco in 2011. And it was quite funny because it was the first time Morocco had put on an event for 2,000 people, and they didn't quite know how to serve dinner to 2,000 people. And so what happened was we were very hungry. 1 hour went by. And dinners in Morocco start at 8 o'clock to begin with. So 9 o'clock comes by, no food, and no alcohol, only water. So this was really bad. And then finally at 9:30, we were at an entrepreneurial conference and entrepreneurism kicked in. Jean-Jacob ran out in the streets of Morocco, went to the market, and got us a bag of hot potato balls. And our table at the very back, we were eating potato balls. So a big part of entrepreneurism is identifying a need and addressing the need. So those of you who want to start companies, it's about finding a need and then the customer who has the need who will buy what you have, okay? So just keep thinking. And Edgar and I had a long talk last night over dinner, and I think if there's anything that came out of it, what was that? Yeah, there has to be a need for what you do. So I'm going to actually, since we have 2 hours, I'm going to give 2 presentations. And the first presentation, I was asked by FXC, the conference that Stenden is a partner with, to just talk about myself and who I am and how I got here. And then the second part of the presentation is actually going to talk about the challenges that entrepreneurs face and just some ideas of what challenges you'll face and what you should do to address those challenges. Okay? So start with one thing. Guten Morgen. Say it right? So how many people here, Dutch is not your first language? Oh, that is a lot. Okay, we're going to go really fast. Keep your hands up. Okay? And then you have to say good morning in your language. Okay, excellent. What language do you speak first? German. Oh, it's the same. Okay, learn something every day. Okay? Romanian. Okay. Back there? What's that? Latvian. Okay. Way in the back. Hubi Utra. Ah, that's Russian. How do you say it in Ukrainian? No, I know. I'm teasing you. Okay. Who's another one that hasn't been said? Bom dia. What language is that? Portuguese. Excellent. Where are you from? Brazil or Portugal? You're from Angola? Ah, very cool. Very cool. Anyone want to share their language? Huh? Ichana. What language is that? Huh? Kanor? Kono? Tio. Oh, got it. Excellent. Thank you. So this is exciting because for some, you guys, there's a whole bunch of people from international business, right? There's some people from retail management, and there's some people from hospitality. And something that was really cool this year in hospitality is I stayed at the newly opened Ritz-Carlton in Kyoto, okay? And it was a lovely facility. It was just fabulous. And one of the things that they did was every time you walked up to the hotel, some young person, a new Ritz trainee, would walk you to your room. And so as we came up, we had a Russian guy walk us to the room, and my boyfriend asked him about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And then we had a Spanish girl walk us to the room, and a Chinese girl, and it was really fun because it was almost like an international tour of the world with so much gracious hospitality. So that's something that, for those of you who are going into hospitality management, look into that program. Travel around the world, stay in nice hotels, and meet fun people. So moving forward, so I'm going to tell you about who I am and how I got here. Because one of the things the organizer said is it would be interesting for you to hear the path I took and the things I learned. Just for fun, how old do you think I am? Teasing you. Okay, I'll tell you one thing. How many people here are under 20? Okay. How many here are under 25? Almost everybody. Okay. I have a son who is 18 and a son who is 22. So I deal with kids like you, semi-adults like you, all the time. All right. So that's me. I was born in Taiwan, and that is my mother and I was 11 months old in Taiwan. So some things about me is I was born in Taiwan, and English is my third language. I'm an engineer by background. Is there any engineers here? Wow, this is one of the first times I've given a talk with no engineers. Okay, semi-engineer. Okay, and then I got my business degree. After I got my degrees, I kind of went the safe corporate route. So I went to work for Exxon, and then I worked for Quaker Oats, which is now owned by Pepsi, and then I worked for AT&T. So I went to the largest companies in the world, and that's where I worked. When I was at AT&T, my customers in Silicon Valley were the startups. So I would go visit them. They were having fun. They were drinking cappuccinos, and they were playing Beethoven, and it seemed so much more romantic than sitting in a cold corporate office. So I quit my job and went to work for a startup. When I went there to a startup, I had no chair. There was a chair that was broken, the air conditioning did not work, and I had to take out the garbage. That's what it is in a startup, is you have to do everything. You're starting up. So from there on, I've never gone back to the corporate world. There's something very, very exciting, addictive about starting up a company, about starting something new, something that if you're going to be a successful company, addresses a big need of some customers. And when you create the product or service and you see the customer being really happy, it's a huge amount of satisfaction. And in many cases comes with money. I know you guys are kids, so you're kind of poor, but do any of you get massages? A few. Okay. Back there you said, how much do you pay for a massage? Of that. How many pay for a massage? Okay, how much do you pay? So look, she spends 50 euros on a massage. That's a lot of money, right? But why does she spend it? Because she needs it. Maybe her back is hurt. She needs it, and she enjoys it. And when there's a customer that wants something, they are willing to pay, right? Like, the Ritz-Carlton, we were trying it out, so we actually got a discount. But the Ritz-Carlton in Kyoto, one night in that Ritz-Carlton is $1,000. Crazy, right? But the Ritz-Carltons are always full because that fills a customer need to be totally pampered and live in a lap of luxury. So where there's a need, there's a business. So right now, what do I do? And then I sit on the board of the MIT Stanford Venture Lab. It's a high-tech forum where we have about 20,000 people in the community. And because we're in Silicon Valley, we're very close to a lot of what's happening. So we will feature speakers, and we'll feature venture capitalists and industry people to talk about the hot topics. Like we recently did an event on the autonomous car, and we had people from Google, from BMW, all showcase their cars and talk about the future of the car and the business to be made from it. Okay? We recently also did an event on Bitcoin. Has anyone here ever used Bitcoin? Yay, I'm so proud of you guys. Come to me and I'll give you an Amazon certificate. No, I'll give you a certificate to GameStop or whatever, okay? So, and then I advise a whole number of organizations. I advise iGlobe, which is an international venture capital based in Singapore, and Mobility Ventures, which is one focused on mobile. The founder was formerly Nokia Ventures. And then the last thing is I'm an advisor to an organization called U.S. Market Access. U.S. Market Access, what we do is we initially started hosting companies who wanted to get into U.S. And now we've expanded, and we host programs to train and to mentor startups to go globally, to go beyond their own country. So it sounds like a lot, right? And I get people say, and then I travel around the world like this. I get to come to Stenden, and I get to eat the good food. We had a really nice dinner with Edgar last night, and meet really cool people. And so I get all these requests. Oh, okay, can you tell me the steps to get where you are? And it wasn't like I planned this. There was a lot of other things I planned to do in my life, but it wasn't this. So life is a lot kind of like, going different ways, and you end up where you are, and the key thing is to love what you're doing. So the next part of this presentation is going to tell you how I got where I am. So, born in Taiwan, when I was 2 years old, got on a plane to Nova Scotia. I went from this nice, beautiful, tropical island to, oh my God, it's so cold. It's even colder than Stenden. Okay, that's where my dad got his master's degree. Then my dad chose to get his PhD at an even colder place, North Dakota. Oh my God. My brothers and I, we slept in the same bed so that we could keep each other warm. And then after that, he got his PhD. We then moved to Michigan. So he was a research chemist. He's a PhD in chemistry. And we moved to a town called Midland, Michigan. So Michigan is a hand, shaped like a hand. Guess where Midland is? There's Midland. Okay? And that's where I grew up from first grade through 12th grade. And then I left for college. So then, yippee, I went to California. I had paid my dues to the cold. So I went to California, and, real quick, during those years of traveling around, we were an immigrant family. I was born in Taiwan. There's my father, my mother, and there's me, 2 brothers and a sister. So by the time my dad got his PhD, he had 4 kids. So for the people who are out there, today's young people go, oh, I'm not ready to have kids. I need to make sure my job is stable. Got to make sure I have a house, blah, blah, blah. Well, my dad had 4 kids, and he didn't even have a degree yet. So it can be done. And then that's my brothers and I. Do you see this little go-kart? My brothers and I, we kept hitting it against a wall until it broke. And then my mom came out and said, what did you do? And we said, Mom, we're scientists like Dad. We want to see how many hits of the wall would it take to break the go-kart. So that's called experimentation. Yes, that's taking a risk. You can get in trouble, but you can learn. So after I grew up, went to school, I went to Stanford. No, and it wasn't because of the weather. It was because of the programs that they had. And at Stanford, one of the things, the big learning, and especially for you guys here at Stenden, is it's the best time in your life to explore. Okay? You learn, you explore. I mean, I initially thought I was going to be a chemical engineer. My dad is a chemist. I know chemistry. I'm going to be a chemical engineer. Right? But then as I took classes and stuff and worked in the lab, in the chemistry lab, I'm like, I don't want to do this. So I switched to a mechanical engineer, which was more fun. And I hate to tell you this is really bad, but I told my dad, but the guys are cuter in mechanical engineering. Those are some of the choices you make in life. And you're kind of embarrassed to say why, but that's it. But the important thing is in college, get lots of work experience, okay? Get any kind of experience that's broad, because you never know when that knowledge is going to be valuable to you. So as a student, by the middle of the year, by January, I was always at the job center looking for jobs and applying and applying and looking for jobs and applying, so that I had a really good summer job. So like this job and that's not me. I just kind of stole this picture. is me working in the chemical engineering lab and then deciding I didn't like sitting in this lab at the edge of campus running tests, okay? Then I got a job with SRI International. SRI International is a big think tank. Can anyone tell me something that SRI has invented? Oh, that's okay. Who has an iPhone? Okay. What happens when you press the iPhone twice? Huh? Siri. Hi, this is Siri. What can I help you with? Siri was invented by SRI. Yeah, so SRI is a think tank that does research and has developed the computer mouse. They developed the first laser surgery, and they've developed a bunch of cancer drugs. So when I was a student at Stanford, as a freshman, I asked, and someone said there was an opening for a lab assistant at SRI. So I worked at SRI for 3 years as a lab assistant doing cancer research. I had to inject 36 mice with cancer cells and then culture them, then take out their fluids and try and find an early marker for cancer, like to see if there's a protein that shows up early in the cancer. Then you can use that marker to identify cancer early, maybe in humans. And that was very interesting, to have this health background. And then later on, next 2 summers, I worked for oil companies, for Ohio, which I got to go up to Alaska and go and map all the pipelines. And going to Alaska in the summer is awesome. It's sunshine. It's only dark from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. So it's like the best summer job. You go there, you work, and then at 10 p.m. you sit around with friends and you decide, let's go canoeing. Except when the canoe tips over and you're in a glacial river. But those are the things you remember. So The other thing is, one thing at Stanford and hopefully at Stenden is they really encourage you to look at things other than academics, to experience things. And so they gave us a number of elective classes, and here are some of the classes that gave us. I took a class in Buddhism. I took a class in windsurfing. That is not me. I hate windsurfing. I'm horrible at it. I can't get up on the board. And then also a class in bartending. So I figured, if I graduate from Stanford and I can't get a job as an engineer, I can go be a bartender. So do you see? It's a lot of trying new experiences and trying what you like. And you are much more likely to find something that you like. So here at Stenden, you may have your major, but try classes in other departments. And join clubs. Join lots of clubs. Because you learn nothing is a better way of learning than hands-on. So what are some of the clubs here? Louder? Toastmasters. Excellent. Who else is in a club? Sports? Go ahead. What? Student association. Get involved. Get involved, because that's a way to enhance your learning beyond just academics. Okay, so after I graduated, I had to be an engineer. I got offered some jobs by consulting companies and telephone companies, and I said, no, I want to be an engineer. I want to get my hands dirty. So I took a job in a refinery. So this is a refinery in California, okay? And this is me after I climbed out of a reactor. What happened was someone had to go inside a reactor to check to see if there was any cracks. And the guy who is the inspector, I can still see his face, Darian, he was too fat. So he comes out to me and he goes, I've got an opportunity for you. And I'm this young new engineer. I'm all excited. Yeah, get to do something exciting. And he goes, I'll give you $100 if you go into that reactor and check for cracks. So I climbed into that reactor because the hole was only this big. And I took pictures of the inside, made sure there was no cracks. And then when I crawled out, he took a picture of me and posted it all over the refinery. So that's me, okay? If you look right here, this is the refinery. And for fun, do you see these two smokestacks? Do you see there's a rope that holds them together? Okay, so I'm an engineer. What happened is those smokestacks, it was very windy in that area, and the smokestacks would shake in the wind. And so they were afraid that when it hit harmonic, where it hits kind of the right vibration or right frequency, they would oscillate and break off. And they were on the top of these big hydrogen furnaces. So I worked with some other engineers to design a figure 8 that ties around them. And what's really cool is every time I drive past that, I look up and it's still there. And my signature is right there with a Sharpie. So eventually I decided I didn't like smelling like diesel fuel. Especially you're at the age you're 23, 24, and that's like when you're out partying, going to bars and meeting people, and I smelled like diesel fuel. So I actually went and looked for a new job, and I found a job listing in the newspaper for an engineer for Quaker Oats. I think Quaker Oats smells a little bit better than diesel fuel, right? So I then switched to a job at Quaker Oats where I was making pasta and Ghirardelli chocolate. So I definitely smelled better. And I also worked on a cross-functional team to invent new products. So I was on a team with a woman who was marketing, someone who was scientists who would formulate new foods, like I'm sure you guys do here at the school, and a quality assurance, and we developed new products. It was so exciting. It was the best thing in the world. You sit there with a bunch of women who are really, really professionally good and come up with new ideas. We came up with this lunch called Lunch for One, where you could pour some water, microwave it, and you had your, macaroni and cheese with broccoli, and it was so good. But it was like, that was a part of my job where I just couldn't believe I was being paid to do that. You get, it's like cooking recipes with your friends and talking about it, and then we got to help promote it across the country, so we were on TV, they would write magazine ads about us, it was really fun. But it all sounds fun telling you all these things, but things are never easy, right? So I want to tell you about some of the hard times that I encountered when I was working as an engineer. One of the things I did was a catalyst replacement for this reactor right here. Okay, it's a diesel hydrofinal reactor. Who can tell me what that does? Just kidding. It breaks up the diesel fuel. But what happened is, in that project, the insides have this kind of crust on it, and you coat the crust with catalyst so it can break up the molecules into the right fuel for your car. And every 5 years, you have to dry out the reactor and put in new catalyst. And I was in charge of writing up a procedure to dry out the reactor. And when we're drying out the reactor, what is still inside that reactor? What do you think is still inside that reactor? Yep, there's still some leftover fuel. Okay? So in drying the reactors, something that is a big danger is that you heat it up and dry it too fast, that the leftover fuel catches on fire. So I wrote a procedure, and I wasn't very happy with it because I felt like it was too fast. Okay? But my boss said, we don't have time to waste. We need to get that done quickly so we can get it up and running and generate revenue. And so we ran it, and there was an office building over here up on the hill, and I was looking down, and I saw some flames shoot up out of my reactor. And that's probably one of the worst moments in my career, because it was a fire, and I knew there was a man underneath managing the equipment. And so I jumped in a car and I went down there. Luckily, the flames went up, and he wasn't hurt because he was underneath. But one of my big lessons for that, and I still remember, is, we should listen to our teachers, we should listen to our bosses, because if we don't listen, it's chaos. But the times when you should not listen is when someone's life is at risk. If your boss tells you to do something where it's really dangerous to someone's life, then at that point, it's an ethics question. You should absolutely say no, So that's just in your career, you will run into these challenges and situations where you're being told what to do, but it's wrong, okay? So in a situation where someone's life is at risk, then you should say no. Okay. Then another one is Smog Hog. It's not as dramatic. There was a project at the Ghirardelli chocolate plant where chocolate smoke kept going to the environment, and the California Air Quality Management kept finding us. And every single engineer who worked before me could not solve that problem. And, for me, being a good Chinese girl, if you're given a problem, you have to solve it. There is no, I cannot solve it, right? Is there any Chinese here? No? I met a Chinese girl in the in the hotel yesterday. Okay, well, you cannot say, I cannot do it. So I went through tons and tons and tons of equipment and took a whole year of trying new equipment before I found the Smog Hog. And this equipment, instead of filtering out the chocolate fumes, it used electricity to capture the electrical field to capture the chocolate the particles. So for those of you who are going into food and work in chocolate, remember, Smog Hog. So one thing to just say before I end this part of this slide is that earn the chance for new opportunities, okay? Like whenever when I was an engineer, I tried really hard to work really hard, work long hours. There was a time when we were doing projects at Exxon where basically we worked 18-hour days, okay? And like with Quaker Oats, I worked and I worked and I worked and I wouldn't let go. I was going to solve that chocolate problem. I know that's really bad, huh? Chocolate problem. So, and as a result, my managers, if I asked for something, were very open to letting me do stuff, okay? In Exxon, when I wanted to move to a different position to try something new, they would always say yes, because I already did a good job at what I was assigned. At Quaker Oats, I recently talked to my boss at Quaker Oats. Give you an idea, his name is Glenn Armstrong, okay? His uncle was Neil Armstrong. Yeah, so Glenn's idea was, hey, the world is yours, okay? And after I solved all the problems with Smog Hog, I asked him if I could try some marketing, because I was interested in marketing, even though I was an engineer. So he gave me some marketing projects. And that made me go, oh, I really, really like marketing. So I want to go get my MBA. And so I talked to Glenn, and Glenn paid for my MBA at Berkeley. So, work hard, earn your right for new opportunities, earn your right to ask, and don't be afraid of asking. If someone says no, you haven't gone backwards, you just haven't gone forwards, but you have nothing to lose, okay? No, next thing we know, all the students will be asking you. Klaus said yes, go ahead, ask him. So I got my MBA, and I quit quit Quaker Oats, and then I went to the dark side. Since you guys are not engineers, you don't get that joke. All the engineers, when they see someone go over to marketing, they say they're going to the dark side. So I then went into marketing and sales. At AT&T, I got a job doing technical sales, selling the new internet-type products in 1990s to these companies, like Intel, like Yahoo in 1994. Can you imagine that? All these companies only had 2 people. And it was really hard because these services were new. And one of the services we sold, which I'm not sure you know in the Netherlands, but France does, is ISDN. Okay, ISDN was a service. I had to sell it. You know what? It was, I still don't know. I still don't know. That's because the people didn't understand it, so they wouldn't buy it. So I actually was on a telecampaign where I called up 1,000 customers trying to get them to buy ISDN. One person bought it. It was really sad. But then a year later, about 10 of them called me back and said, you know that ISDN you were telling me about? Can you come and talk to me about it? I think I might have a need for it. And then I got all these huge customers, and then one of the customers offered me a job too. But I think everyone should go through sales because it's dealing with the customer, it's understanding how they act, how to sell to them. So if you're in any other job in the country, you understand what it takes to get the product out there. So if you have a chance, take a sales position for a little while, or go along with the salesperson and see what they have to do. I think it's hugely valuable. Do you agree, Leonard? Yeah. And then when I was at Pacific Bell, I had a lot of customers who were startups. And one of the startups was Internex. It was a brand new internet service provider in 1993, and I was all excited about them, like, wow, you're changing the world, you're bringing internet to the people. And then I went to coffee with the CEO, and he's like, I'm running out of money. I'm going to have to shut down. And I'm like, oh no. And then I started talking to other customers, and this other customer is like, I have a lot of money, and I'd really like to buy an internet service provider. And I went, I know one for you. So I set up a meeting between my customer who wanted to buy an internet service provider and the internet service provider, and they bought them. And that was so cool. I was making deals. And then after the two companies got together, I got a job and some stock. See, so a lot of it is, do you see, you make your own opportunities. You can't sit and wait for things to happen. You jump in where there is a need, and you fill that need, okay? So this is a crazy, crazy story. This is the first company I started, and it was crazy. I started this company. It was the second internet service provider in Singapore, and it started in 1995. How did it happen? How did I end up in Singapore? I was born in Taiwan, okay? Never been to Singapore. So how did I end up starting up? And it's not just because I'm Chinese. So in 1995, my husband got transferred to Singapore to build a plant for Seagate, the hard disk manufacturer, and I said, I do not want to go there and sit by the pool like all the expat wives. I go, unless I can find a job, we're not going. So the vice president of Seagate flew me to Singapore to look for a job, and right then, Singapore was trying to enter the internet world. And so when they found out I had internet experience, they said, there's a new startup, and they need people. So I said, okay. And I thought I would go there and do some marketing. I walked into the offices. There was me, and there was two students, just graduated, and that was it. Because what we did was buy the university's network. The university, NUS, National University of Singapore, had an internet. We bought their network, and we had to take a commercial. And it was me and two kids. And it was like, oh, shit. I, as an expat wife, I didn't want to work, but I did want to spend some time by the American Club pool. Never made it in a whole year. So we grew the company from 2 to 100 people in 6 months. We beat Singtel, Singapore Telecom, in 1 year, okay? We worked 18-hour days, okay? We were just nonstop, go. We kept understanding what was happening. We took every meeting. We just constantly reacted to the market, and we beat Singtel. Like I said, it was 18 hours, and at that time, I had a son who was 3 years old, okay? And my husband was working 18-hour days, and we had a son. So for the women who are here, do you feel, and the men, do you think kids slow down your career? That's a topic in the US for sure. But I know in Europe, they're much more supportive. Well, anyways, we had a 3-year-old. My mom flew out from America to live with us and take care of our son. But there's always ways to get around with it, you know. And that's another topic we can talk later on one-on-one. So we beat Singtel. There was a lot of creativity that we did to get to market, okay? A lot of innovation. Gotta keep thinking of ideas. Ask people for ideas, okay? And, one of the creativities we had was to put, because the internet was new in Singapore, a lot of people didn't know what it was. So we set up stations in all the public libraries so people could experiment the internet. We trained college students to man those stations to show people, right? And that's how people learned about it and then wanted to buy it. And what happened with that is I'd go into a library and all these young people were simply chatting. All these girls were chatting with guys in the UK. It was supposed to help them on their research, but oh well. But besides being creativity and getting out to the market, when you start a company, you're going to run into issues. And where you really need a lot of creativity is in problem solving. So like, for example, we ran a campaign and marketed a lot, and a lot of people called in to order a service to connect to the internet. And then what happened was nobody could get in because there was too many customers. So all they got was it was back in the olden days when you had a modem, so you had to use a phone line, and it was busy signal, okay? So what do? So Christmas Day, I'm sitting in the office answering all these disgruntled calls from customers. And then the press was trying to interview us going, oh, your service is a disaster. Oh, Pacific Internet, do not go, bad service, right? And so I had to talk to the press. And I said to the press, I go, you know, when you go to a party, are there parties here on campus? Yeah? Never? Is there parties here that are not official? Yes, I know. Come on. Okay. And, you know, a really good party, there's a lot of people. And it's a long line, and you have to fight to the front to get your beer, right? No one drinks beer. Okay. But everyone likes being there, the crowdedness, the having fun. You know, that's what a good party is. So I just told the journalist, oh, Pacific Internet, we're a really good party train, and it's really crowded. And so, yeah, you're getting the busy signals because it's such a good party, and you just have to wait, like you have to wait at a party to get a beer. And that's what the guy wrote in the newspaper. So you have to be creative in addressing problems, okay? So at the end of the day, this company went IPO on the NASDAQ in the US in 1999. So it was very exciting. And then this is me last year in Singapore with her. She was my head of marketing, he was my head of sales, and she was my head of PR. And we get together and reminisce about the good old days and all the nights we worked until midnight. So anyways, so I'm moving on. I'm going to tell you just real quickly about some of the other startups. Have you heard of Trustee? If you look on websites, you'll see this logo a lot, Trustee, okay? That indicates that they have subscribed and follow proper protocols for protecting your privacy on the internet. So I actually was the executive director that launched that back in the late 1990s. And here's the funny way that I got that role is when I came back from Singapore, I was looking for a job. And I was interviewing for a job. And the headhunter actually said to me, well, I don't have a job in marketing and sales for you, but this friend of mine is looking for some help, and I think you'd be perfect. And I go, okay. And it ended up being the executive director of Trustee. It wasn't the job I was looking for, but the headhunter said, I think you have the right personality and you have the right drive and experience to help my friend Asim Abdullah. So I did it. You know, like, you just never know what's going to happen. Be open-minded, okay? And then Asim Abdullah, with Trustee, started another company, I can't remember what it's called, which he sold for $300 million, and now he took his money and bought the Italian Ungaro label. So now he's running a design firm. So life just keeps going, you know, all different directions. You really, if you don't have to do a planned path. You know, the more you look at different areas, the more things you get to try. So, a second company that I work for is called Ascend. Ascend made equipment for the internet industry. I was their biggest customer in Asia when I was at Pacific Internet. When I came back to the US, they hired me to do international marketing, to market to all the other providers, like to market to KPN, to market to, what's an internet service provider here in Netherlands? What? EPC? Yeah, to EPC, to France Telecom, to British Telecom. So I flew around the world and took people to dinner to talk about the products. And we were bought by Alcatel-Lucent in 1999 for $21 billion. Everybody, including the secretaries, all had $1 million worth of stock. Yeah. The question is, how many of us kept that money or wasted it? Okay, recently I've been an advisor of a company called Runa. They do e-commerce. They help consumers go onto e-commerce websites, find what they want, and buy what they want quickly. And Runa just got bought by Staples for $70 million. So Staples sent me a letter saying, "Where would you like us to send the check?" I was like, wow. So these are the good stories, okay? I mean, you know, these are things where you just really work hard and something comes of it. And you really focus on the need. But in the real world, in entrepreneurship, there's actually more failures than there are successes, okay? And what you do is go through the failures and learn. So one of my failures is this company called Uptime One. We did a software for e-commerce, for people enable like food service here. You guys want to order some food or order some ingredients from your food distributors? Instead of calling them or sending over a piece of paper, Uptime One created a website so you could go order some cream. You could order some flour, okay? But the Uptime One CEO was very inexperienced, low integrity, on and on and on and on. But I was all excited about doing another startup. And so he came and borrowed money from me, because at that time, I had just made lots of money from Ascend. So he goes, "I need some money. I'm trying to take a loan on my house to pay for everyone's salaries. But while I'm waiting for my bank loan, can I borrow some money?" So I lent him $200,000. I just went to the bank and go, Choo! He paid the salaries for 2 months. He never mortgaged his house, and I never got my $200,000 back. Yeah, these things happen. And then another one is July Systems, okay? This is another company I worked with for about 5 years, and we kept raising money, okay? We raised $34 million, okay? And the company never made more than $1 million. Yeah, that's a lot of money, huh? Then I finally find out that one of the co-founders who's the head of product, right, was in India. And when we would do demos, right, like for customers like AT&T or customers like Real Networks or Electronic Arts. Who knows Electronic Arts? Come on. And what do they make? Games. Okay, so they were our customers. When we were doing a demo for them, I'm the marketing VP. They wouldn't let me run the demo. They had to run the demo from India, even if it was the middle of the night. I'm like, this is strange. Like, I'm an engineer. Let me run it. If it's technical, I can do it. Until I went to India to visit the team, and they said, Gigi, it doesn't work. So when they do a demo, they go like this, and when the customer presses the button, we hardwire and switch it to the second server. It's Wizard of Oz. I go, boy, yeah, Wizard of Oz and $34 million gone. So it does happen. So, now I learned to, it's funny. One of my friends in Amsterdam actually said to me, you seem to be able to identify when someone, the people who don't seem to do things right? And I said to him, Eric, that's because I've run into too many of them. You learn. So startups can be fun, they can be exciting, but trust me, you know what I would do with my $200,000 right now? I would make sure my 2 sons got through college. So one last thing is that I am on the board of this nonprofit called the MIT Stanford Venture Lab, okay? And what we do is we're sponsored by MIT and Stanford to promote entrepreneurship in the community. We want to connect people, ideas, and the technology, and we have this big community where we host events every month to stimulate. It's both to teach, to stimulate discussion, and we have a big networking event as part of it, so you can go and meet people. And so I've met Eric Schmidt from Google, or Elon Musk, all these people, okay? And through this organization is also where I've met a lot of people and found a lot of opportunities and a lot of clients. So for you guys, a suggestion to you is get out there, get involved. If anything, take a train. There's a lot of things going on in Amsterdam. There's a lot of stuff going on. Get on Leonard's mailing list. He'll have all the stuff of what's going on for startups here in Leeuwarden. Okay? So at the end of the day, this is my first presentation, and then we'll take a break, and we'll take some questions, and then take a break. All right? Is create your own destiny. Is drive value creation, okay? Get good grades. Do big projects. Do things that you have something to show for it. Don't just dabble, okay? If you're going to do something, do it right. If you're going to join an organization, take a leadership position. Do something so you end up with something tangible. And then, really important, take risks, okay? If you saw from my life, it wasn't like I had a clear path to anything I did, and I just worked to it. It's just try new things, take new risks. If someone gives you an opportunity, take it. Like recently, I got this opportunity to help a company go get acquired by another company. And I thought, okay, I'll just introduce you to the right resource. And they said, no, we want you. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. They said, but we trust you. And I said, oh shit, I'm going to learn on the job. Right? And in the end, we're actually about to close a deal, and they're giving me a really big bonus. Okay? And this is doing something I totally didn't know how to do. So I had to learn while I'm doing it. Okay? So take those risks. If you only do the things that you know and you're comfortable, 20 years later, you're going to be doing the same thing and thinking, what did I do with my life that was exciting? And be passionate. Find things that you love. Like, I loved working on that team to create new products at Quaker Oats. I went to work every day thinking, I can't believe I'm being paid to have so much fun, right? I love helping startups. I love mentoring really, really bright, young, doesn't have to be young, can be old, entrepreneurs, okay? And seeing them succeed. One of the companies I'm mentoring in Amsterdam just sold their product to Harvard Medical School. It's so exciting because this product is going to help cure breast cancer. Okay? And then one thing to know, you can have anything. Okay? So if you say, I want this, you can work towards it. Like, I want to go out with George Clooney, okay? Then I have to carefully think about how I'm going to go out with George Clooney, okay? But I cannot go out with George Clooney and still make my fiance happy, right? Do you see? So you can have anything, you can't necessarily have everything. You can't spend 24 hours a day with your child and also spend 24 hours a day at your job. So prioritize what you want. And lastly, do what's right. Think about what you're doing. Is it right? Is it ethical? A lot of what I learned when that reactor exploded is, do what's right for you, your family, and for the country, for the world. And so the last thing I want to show you is, here's some budding entrepreneurs. So this guy right here is my 22-year-old son. Okay? That's me. That's my Japanese client. And so my son went to college for a couple years, but he didn't really know what he wanted. And so he dropped out and was just kind of took some jobs working in a pizza store. But he always loved working with his hands, and he wanted to do some sort of engineering. So he took his initiative and started talking around, asking for people, and telling them what he wanted. And he got a job with this company called Trix, which is a specialty machine shop, which builds specialty machine pieces for the plumbing industry. Okay? And he loves working there. He works from 7 until 7. Look at how dirty he is, and look at how happy he is. And he went out there to find this job himself, was very proactive. And two things is, he redesigned a process of how they made a part. So he took it took 1 minute to make. Now the way he redesigned the process, it makes 12 seconds to make it. So he's saving the company a lot of money. And then 2 weeks ago, he called me. He goes, Mom, I got a bonus. What is that? And the company had given him a $1,200 bonus. And it showed up on his paycheck. He goes, Mom, they gave me more money. Did they make a mistake? It's like, no, Max, you did a good job. They're rewarding you. And what's really exciting is he's so passionate about what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He's going back to school now to get a degree in mechatronics engineering. But do you see, it's so important for you to love what you're doing. So, I keep talking to you about Silicon Valley. But guess what? This is Annalie Blakeman. Guess where she's from? She's from Holland. She's from Friesland? She's from Friesland. Okay, have you guys ever been camping here in Friesland? Name some of the camping sites. Like a bit, I can't tell. Oh, so her family owns Ilwild, and then owns another one. It's in Kodam. Cabana. Her family owns those two. Okay, and she used to work with me at the Amsterdam Center for Entrepreneurship in Amsterdam. She was the incubator manager, sort of like Jacob. And but then two things. While she was incubator manager, she decided, I'm going to start a business on the side. So she bought a canal boat, and she was taking people on canal boats for rides. Okay, and then now her family bought a second campground. So now she's up here in Friesland managing the campgrounds. So, what I love was she said, I want to start my own business. So even though her family had a business, she bought her own boat and started her own business. So that's one of the people from here doing the same thing, doing what she loves. So those hopefully gives you some ideas. There is no planned way to get to where you are. It's keep exploring, trying new things. 35 years ago, I thought I'd be an engineer. I thought I'd be CEO of Exxon now. And I'm not, but I'm a lot happier because I get to meet all these great people. Questions? You're not allowed to get out of here to the bathroom unless someone asks a question.
You tell us some nice stories, and you tell us also about you can have anything. What's the thing you want now? You have maybe almost everything.
What's the thing I want? Really, at the short term, I want my sons to find their way and get to a position where they're finding what they want and they can be successful.
Are you going to influence that process?
I will nudge them. If there's anything I do for my sons is I try to introduce them to people. Like I had some Ukrainian entrepreneurs over for dinner last 2 weeks ago, and I told my sons to come over for dinner. And I said to my younger son, who's really into sales and marketing, hey, they need a salesperson. So I think that's what I want right now in the near future. When they're on their own and headed out forwards, then you know what I really want to do? I want to start a restaurant. I want to start a restaurant with a sake bar and a boutique wines, and serving tapas from around the world. And then I want people to come to my restaurant and make deals, like in Silicon Valley, like, oh, I'll buy your company, I'll buy that company, oh, we should go IPO. And I'm going to have this thing called the IPO package, where it comes with Cristal champagne and caviar and sushi and Kobe beefsteak, and that price of that package will be $100,000. Well, I'll make it cheaper, $10,000, but you have to give me 1,000 shares of that stock. So that's my dream. And the coolest thing is I'm going to have that by that time I have so much money that when my friends, and that includes you guys, come to my restaurant, you drink for free. When will it open? Well, when I make some money, but within 5 years. How's that? Yeah. In fact, I'm going to be investing money in this Dutch startup. I'll talk about it in the next presentation, but I'll be investing money in them this quarter. Yeah. I haven't invested in an American startup for a while, but I'm going to invest in a Dutch startup. Yes? Yeah, doing a startup when you're young is great, and because you learn so much when you do, versus just someone telling you in school, right? And that's one reason. And the other reason is when you're young, you don't have the responsibility. Because when you have kids to feed and mortgages to pay, it's harder to take risks. So tomorrow? Yes? Oh, okay. Most investors want to invest in Valley startups because they're right there. It's sort of like when my son went away to college, I don't know where my money went, you know. and so they like to invest closer. Also, the one thing about the Valley is there's such a strong ecosystem to help a company succeed. Like, if I'm a startup in Silicon Valley and I have problems with issues of human resources, there's a million human resources people I can call for help, right? Or if I need money, there's a lot of people. And so, sometimes it's safer to invest in Silicon Valley startups. And then the second thing is the third thing is the Silicon Valley startups grow up with that mentality, with the culture, of taking risks, of knowing how to go out there and find help and network. So they tend to have a higher rate of success. I personally am not limited to Silicon Valley because, later on I'll talk about actually, this afternoon's presentation, I'll talk about some of the culture. And then when I find companies which have the culture of real entrepreneurism, they're more likely to succeed. And then I'm just as inclined to invest in them. Like this one Dutch startup in Amsterdam that's doing something which can help cure breast cancer. And one of the cool things that Stenden is doing, like with this talk, is to try and help build up the ecosystem to help the entrepreneurs here in Stenden, to have the similar elements of what Silicon Valley does, so that it can be good. A region which has done a really good job is southern Sweden, Malmo, and Lund University. They've done a really good job of creating an ecosystem with money, technology, corporate support, educational support. And so that region has actually been spinning out startups which have been bought internationally. Like one of the companies out of that region that was bought by Apple was a company called Polar Rose. And then another company called Mash Mobile was bought by a UK company called Mblocks. So that area has been successful in creating the ecosystem that has produced successful startups. And this is what Stenden is working on.